everyone, and welcome back to Plain Talk. I'm your host, AJ Rivera, and today I'm joined by Trice Brown. Trice is the multimedia managing editor for The Plainsman. Trice, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, AJ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Glad to have you with us. So recently, you wrote an investigative article about the sexual misconduct of Richard Hansen, who is the now former dean of the Harrison School of Pharmacy. Can you take me through that article and your investigative process in writing it?
Right. So I wrote this story with the news editor, Mai Lee, and the two of us, we initially heard from the victim through like an anonymous Twitter account. It was actually her friend. But we got in contact with them and we started looking into the story. Initially, we thought the story was going to be about the dean being suspended, because at that time, that's what the information that we had suggested. And a lot of it involved going to a lot of different offices and being ping-ponged around, trying to figure out what it all could be confirmed as related to the case, because a lot of the stuff is not in public record just because of the nature of Title IX. But we exhausted pretty much every resource that we could. We collected all the documents that we could from the victim, and then we just hammered it out. It did not, obviously turn out the way we ended, because we thought it was going to be about his suspension. But I think it's honestly stranger that he wasn't, and then there was all of that. A thing I described in the story where she was told he was going to be suspended, but then she was told, again, by Title IX that he wouldn't be suspended and they would not share what they would actually be doing. It was just a lot of very strange encounters and a lot of difficulties, but I'm glad that it's finally out and done.
Right, absolutely. So, as you talked about, with it being sexual misconduct of a, dean, Title IX being involved, what were your biggest takeaways about the Title IX process through, you looking into this story?
Right, so before this story, I'd never really done anything with Title IX. The closest thing I could think of was that an editor who used to work with us did a story explaining Title IX, but I did not really understand the policy or its kind of sister policy, the policy against discrimination and harassment, which is kind of like the off-campus version of that. I did not have any real experience with it, but I think thinking about it now, I'd say we often think of Title IX as like this agent to bring justice to a victim, but I honestly don't really think that is its primary purpose. In speaking with other people who are very familiar with Title IX, when I was writing this story, and also just in the process of writing in all of the problems that we encountered with it, I'd say the definite purpose of Title IX is to limit a university's liability in cases of sexual harassment or any kind of discrimination. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway for me, was that it's a lot of things are not designed. Well, a lot of things are designed so that like secrecy is maintained. So, for example, there is this policy in recording meetings that are in a Title IX hearing, where the university is the only like group that is able to make recordings of any meetings related to that. Like a victim cannot make their own recordings and then, for example, share it with us. So a lot of it is that there's not. It's not as like cut and dry, I guess, as we like to think of it as.
Gotcha. So it's been a few days now since this story was published on y'all's website. What has been the public response to seeing this article and hearing this story?
I think the public response was a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be. I think people have been really, outraged. They've been very surprised. I was shared this email from the pharmacy department that came out the same day that we published the story earlier in the day, where it was like, hey, pharmacy students, Dean Hansen's doing, it's going to let you park in his parking spot for a day for like the next 24 days or something. It's just kind of some promotional thing. and then we published the story around like noon, maybe 1, something like that. And then we got a lot of positive response on social media, on our website. I think it was a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be, which I think is very encouraging.
So the university and Eagle Eye reached out as a follow-up when this story broke. We reached out to the university about, the details regarding former Dean Hansen's resignation. And it came to our attention, as I'm sure it came to yours, that while he is resigned and is no longer the dean of the school, he still remains as a tenured professor. What was your reaction to that? Right.
In my speaking with Preston Sparks from OCM, he's still a professor. He is not currently teaching students, so I guess we're not sure, like, if he will in the future. But I think in understanding that was a little bit of a surprise. It felt like there was a lot of back and forth initially, I guess. Like, there's been so many things in this cases where it's like, we thought one thing was happening and then it turned out something else was happening. This kind of felt like a strange continuation of that. I think especially the response on social media has not been very good in terms of that. I was personally kind of surprised when that happened, but also not really. It's just in cases like this, it's like things like that happen. Like people, they find a way, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. So where can the public find your article so they can read it for themselves?
Yeah, so they can find that at our website. That is theplainsman.com. I believe it is still the top story on the homepage, but if not, it'll be somewhere on there. Or you can check our social media. They've been getting a lot of traction there, so you'll definitely be able to find it.
Alrighty. Well, for everyone watching at home, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Plain Talk. As always, Eagle Eye will be doing follow-up coverage on this story and all story and news in the Auburn area. You can check that out on our website, eagleeyeauburn.com, or on our social medias at Eagle Eye TV. I'm your host, AJ Rivera, and War Eagle.